right, good evening, everybody. Going to go ahead and call to order the Bristol, Virginia City Council for today, June the 13th, 2023. Please join me in a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, I'm very glad to see everybody out. Hope you all are enjoying the nice weather we're having. A whole lot of summer events going on downtown and across Bristol and the region. So I hope you're all able to get out as you can and enjoy them. And I know we've got some more events coming up later in the month that we're putting out on social media so people can be aware of it. You know, the Juneteenth event coming up this weekend and others. One thing I wanted to announce before we get into the meeting, we've made the decision that July the 3rd we will give as a day off for non-essential city employees, which will tie into their July 4th that is off. So non-essential city employees will be off on July the 3rd. Council comments.
I've got something real quick. I just want to say thank you to the folks at Hope for Bristol. Over the weekend, they did a service project in our community. There's a lady that was in serious need. And there's not always a government program, not always an agency that can help and step up. And that group volunteered. They had, I think, 20-some people show up. Thanks to Joel Kellogg, who led the event, but then also Ellen Tolton with the city, who kind of organized the city side of things and pinpointed where that need was. So just thank you to those that participated.
Just to piggyback off what the mayor said, lots of events going on in downtown Bristol, particularly Border Bash, music series. I know the 4th of July parade will be coming up in not too much longer, and some great events going on at the library for kids this summer. So my kids were taking advantage of that a few days ago and had a lot of fun. So I'd encourage everyone to check out stuff going on at the library this summer.
And I'll just add, if you're wondering how to find out about these events or you're wondering what page to go to, make sure you're following all the social media for the city. I just want to thank Tanil for her work on that. She has been great about getting that information out to all the community. And so I've just noticed just by sharing those posts, whether it be about the 4th of July or the Juneteenth event, that creates awareness in our community and really helps get the word out. So thank you all for following our social media and then also sharing it.
Yes, thank you.
There are Thursday night movies at the park, too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there are. You can't beat the price. All right, city manager's comments.
Council, I have a few comments to follow up on Mr. Pollard's comment. We do have movies in Cumberland Square Park every Thursday night in June. There's 3 movies left for this upcoming June. And these movies are sponsored by the Bristol Broadcasting Company. So the events start at 7 p.m. and the movie starts at 9 p.m. So if you have an opportunity, go check out things in Cumberland Square Park on Thursday nights. The Juneteenth holiday is on Monday, June 19th, 2023. City offices will be closed, and we need to remember the reason for this holiday and what it means to the community. There will be a Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, June 17th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. in Cumberland Square Park. We also have Battle of the Badges blood drive on June 23rd from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Bristol, Tennessee Police Department on Anderson Street. So go give blood and give your vote to either Bristol, Virginia Police Department or the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department. And I want to give a thank you out to the Street Maintenance Division staff. They've been replacing and upgrading sidewalks throughout the city and including adding ADA accessible ramps at street intersections along Commonwealth Avenue and between Euclid Avenue and Glenway Avenue. So a big thanks goes out to that crew who are doing the hard work, especially during these summer months.
All right, thank you very much. Next item is matters to be presented by members of the public for non-agenda items. we only have one person who has signed up, and I believe you know the routine, so it's Reverend Knopflin.
Mr. Mayor, and to the council, and Mr. Eads, to your staff. First, I'd like to say thank you for the work that, like you said, has been done throughout the city. Watching the streets be prepared for handicap accessible, not just that. You got baby strollers and other people that are on the street, so thank you for that. What I did not hear was when we have these other events like Juneteenth and Border Bash, people come into our cities and they're coming to our restaurants, they're coming to our hotels, they're visiting and they're spending money, even in the little fast food stores. So this Juneteenth, we have people coming from Atlanta, Georgia. We have people coming from Richmond coming in to be supportive of that we expected. I'm looking at least 2,000. It may be more, but that's the number that we're looking at. Hopefully, I hope that the grounds are clean and so forth, and we will show the best hospitality that we possibly can. I thank you for Mr. Mayor. You'll be the first one on for speaking towards our wonderful city, and Mr. Holmes, you'll be there as well, speaking in support. We invited VAPA, that's Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. They're the organizations that's assigned by the governor. They continue to can write grants and do things to help Bristol. BAMA, Bristol Area Ministerial Alliance, and whom I happen to be the president, they voted me in another year. I don't know if they're on their knees before the Lord still, but they voted me in. So BAMA and VAPA will be connecting at the park on Saturday. They will be taking videos of testimonials and so forth. And this is, and I just spoke to the mayor and told him, I've been invited from legislators to come to Richmond and to make the plea for Bristol as far as more monies. Now, they've already told us no, but for some reason I'm going, and I'm going to take a group with me. And these testimonies and these things that are being put together, to let you know, Mr. Mayor, we will continue to pressure and to put forth that force that we need help financially to help with that landfill. And so that's also happening at Juneteenth. So it's going to be a big celebration. I thank you all for everything that you can do to get the support. And like you said, Miss Becky, the social media, there's nothing like it. There is nothing like it. And the last thing I want to say is on the at library. If you haven't visited the library, I was there yesterday, and I was amazed that that sign is so colorful. It caught my eye. I took pictures of it. There's a lot of comments on Facebook because a lot of people don't know what's going on until you get there or until you hear someone else say that will draw the kids into the library, not just the children, but those who read. Go into the library to view that sign. It said Bristol, Virginia, a good place to read. Bristol, Virginia, Tennessee. I sort of want to leave them out, but I add them in today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, adoption of the agenda. Looking for a motion and a second to take action.
I move to approve the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, motion by the Vice Mayor and second by Mr. Holmes. Please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes.
Pollard. Yes. Osborne.
Yes. All right, regular agenda items. Number one, a resolution to designate the Bristol Regional Tourism Marketing Corporation as a Virginia destination marketing organization. Nobody has signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, during the budget approval process, the City Council approved switching the city's destination marketing organization from Discover Bristol to the Bristol Regional Tourism Marketing Corporation, Explore Bristol. The following resolution will designate Explore Bristol to serve as the DMO for the city and will be filed with the Virginia Tourism Corporation to be recognized by the state of Virginia. Council, two quick changes in the resolution that we, before we adopt it. In the heading of the resolution, it says designated. That just needs to be designate the Bristol Regional Tourism Marketing Corporation as a Virginia destination marketing organization. And then in the second paragraph, the word solely is in that first sentence of whereas the state of Virginia's Tourism Corporation coordinates marketing activities solely with destination marketing organizations. We need to remove the word solely.
All right. Reading of the resolution.
resolution to designate the Bristol Regional Tourism Marketing Corporation as a Virginia destination marketing organization. Whereas the City of Bristol, Virginia wishes to increase tourism opportunities, and whereas the State of Virginia's Tourism Corporation coordinates marketing activities with destination marketing organizations within the state to market the Commonwealth as a premier travel destination, and whereas the advantage of being a destination marketing organization within the Commonwealth of Virginia would allow for partner opportunities and grant applications, and whereas increasing the tourism to the City of Bristol, Virginia would serve to increase local businesses that may result in increased tax revenue to the city and surrounding communities, and now therefore let it be it resolved by the City Council this the 13th day of June, the City of Bristol, Virginia will petition the Virginia Tourism Corporation to recognize Bristol Regional Tourism Marketing Corporation as a destination marketing organization. Be it still further resolved that the Bristol Regional Tourism Marketing Corporation or their designee is hereby authorized and directed to act as chief liaison for the DMO. The foregoing resolution was adopted by the City Council of the City of Bristol, Virginia at its regularly scheduled meeting held on the 13th day of June in Bristol, Virginia.
All right, thank you. So we're going to look for a motion and a second to take action on this, and I would note that the motion would need to be with the changes that the city manager had stated.
I will move to approve with the changes noted.
Second.
All right.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Pollard, second from Mr. Farnum. Council discussion.
I have a comment to make. Due to my employment with the Virginia Tourism Corporation, I'm abstaining from voting on the resolution to designate the Bristol Regional Tourism Marketing Corporation as a Virginia destination marketing organization. My employment could create an appearance of a conflict of interest due to the Virginia Tourism Corporation funding the DMO.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
I'd like to address some of the conflict that there has been going around where some people have been hostile against the city for our decision. I would like to point out that we need to do what is best in the best interest of the city, not necessarily what's in the best interest of other organizations, but in the best interest of the city and our residents. In this case, we aren't making a decision against anybody. We have an opportunity now that we have not had in the past, and this was spearheaded by our counterpart organization in Bristol, Tennessee. And if they had not led this, we wouldn't have even had this opportunity now. We have a great opportunity to move to an organization which, based on the data and presentations that we have heard, they are going to do a great job for us. They have demonstrated they've done a great job for Bristol, Tennessee, and we are looking forward to what they can do for us.
I'll just say very briefly, I believe I said this when we made the change in our budget. I appreciate the years of work that we've received from Discover Bristol. But sometimes you just want to have a change of direction, course correction, whatever you want to call it. Just try something different and see how it works out. And I'm very confident in the results that I believe we'll see from Explore Bristol, and this resolution is just a step for us to be able to have Explore Bristol as our marketing branch. So looking forward to getting to work with them and appreciate the time we've worked with Discover Bristol and all they've done for us, and I hope to continue working with the chamber as a whole going forward, as we are our gold level members of the chamber. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Farnum?
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes.
Nave?
Abstain.
Pollard? Yes. Osborne?
Yes. All right, number 2, approval of Highlands Community Services fiscal year 2024 performance contract. Staff report.
Council, this is an annual approval of a performance contract between Highlands Community Services and the City of Bristol. Rebecca Holmes, the Executive Director of the Highlands Community Services, is here to present the agreement and answer any questions you all may have.
Good evening. Nice to meet you. Some of you are new. Any questions I'm happy to entertain any questions that you might have. There are a few changes from the last couple of years. I think last year I told you they were doing some structural modifications to the contract and the document itself. Those have continued into this year. They're trying to streamline it, get it down under the 300-page contract that it has historically been. That continues to try to be streamlined some. There are a few modifications to some of the outcomes measures that have historically been required from our data reporting elements. Those have now been acknowledged to be what we have said for a while, and that being unreasonable and unrealistic. So they have dialed some of those back a bit. Still working on some of the grant and payment structure pieces that were launched this year. So again, just trying to clean this document up some are the major differences from what you've seen in the past. Are there any questions?
Do you have any questions? Thank you for coming and being available, for us to ask you questions if we had them.
Certainly.
I know you said we're trying to get the contract down from 300 pages. I think it's only 270, so,
We've made progress.
done that. But no, we appreciate the work that you all do as our community service board. The work that Highlands Community Service does is very important. It doesn't, you don't tend to think that it touches, you don't tend to think of it unless it touches your life in some way. And when it does, it becomes a very important organization with very important duties. So we're excited to keep working with you, and thank you for being here for this.
Absolutely. I think our last count, we serve 1 out of every 17 adults and 1 out of every 7.5 children in Washington County and Bristol. So you don't have to look very far to see someone that we've served.
Yeah, when I was first elected, I served on the CPMT board with Highlands Community Services, and it's a lot of very difficult, very sad situations that
True.
you all handle, and and God bless you all for doing it. We appreciate what you do, and these are things that are needed and necessary for any community to have these services and have them available. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Pleasure to serve.
Thank you. Is any other questions? All right, thank you. All right,
Thank you all.
looking for a motion and a second to take action on the contract.
I move to approve the Highlands Community Services performance contract for year '24.
Second.
All right, motion from the Vice Mayor, second from Mr. Holmes. Council discussion. All right, hearing none, please call the roll.
Farnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, number 3, approval of employee handbook, staff report.
Council, on May 23rd, the City Council approved Ordinance 23-7 regarding creating an active and functional personnel policy handbook that can be amended as needed with the council approval in a timely manner without the necessity of adopting an ordinance approving the amendment. After months of hard work by our Human Resources Department, Angie Blevins and Sydney Bristol, both here tonight, the revised 74-page employee handbook is a one-stop shop for all matters affecting employment within the city. With council approval, the handbook will be adopted by reference as if it were fully incorporated within the code. Before the end of each fiscal year, the city manager or his or her designee will present the personnel policy handbook to City Council for review and approval. The recommendation is for the council to approve the handbook for adoption on July 1, 2023.
All right, thank you very much. Looking for a motion and a second to take action on this.
I move the approval of the employee handbook.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Holmes, second from the Vice Mayor. Council discussion.
I'll just say, I want to thank Angie Blevins and Sydney for their work on this. I know there's a lot of changes that's been made in here, and you had to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. So thank you for all the time you put into it and all your hard work on it. We appreciate it.
I'll also note that this has helped, this change has helped to streamline city code as well, because a lot of things that don't really need the bureaucratic overhead of being in city code can now be handled directly by the HR department, who are responsible for it anyway.
I do have one question. And this can go either, I think this might be a city manager question. So one item that I just wanted clarification on the gun policy. So it's talking about, except for law enforcement officials, obviously nobody can carry guns on the clock, right?
That's correct.
In the Code of Virginia, I think it's in section 15, it says that some localities classify the fire marshal as a law enforcement official.
That's correct.
Do we?
He is classified as a law enforcement official because he does have arrest powers, and he can make arrests as necessary.
Okay. I didn't know, I was cross-referenced, I was going through and reading this, and I was cross-referencing stuff, and I saw that, and I was,
Yeah, they have
that
to
surprised me.
They have to attend training very similar to what the police attend in order
Okay.
to have those arrest powers.
So he will be unaffected by this change. It'll be what he's been doing.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. Item 4 is public hearing on budget amendment for fiscal year 2022-2023. Open the public hearing. Staff report.
Council, pursuant to Section 15.2-2507 of the Code of Virginia, a locality may amend its budget to adjust the aggregate amount to be appropriated during the current fiscal year. Any such amendment that exceeds 1% of the total expenditures shown in the current adopted budget must be accomplished by publishing a notice of a meeting and a public hearing once in a newspaper having general circulation in that locality at least 7 days prior to the meeting date. On June the 4th, 2023, notice of the amendment and public hearing, along with a general synopsis of the proposed budget amendment, was published in the Bristol Herald Courier. This public hearing gives the citizens the opportunity to make comments on this budget amendment.
All right, thank you. We have one person who has signed up for public comment, and that is Reverend Knopflin. You good? Okay. All right, close the public hearing. Next item is budget amendment / supplemental appropriation, supplemental budget appropriation totaling $5,661,003. Staff report.
Council, this budget amendment will put some funds in place that were not in the current budget. Primarily, we have some school funds that need to be appropriated from a grant that the school system received. And then we have some city funds for the general fund totaling $2.4 million. Just as an overview, we have an additional need to appropriate for legal fees, $750,000. Those are ongoing, so you'll likely, we actually in next year's budget included a pretty significant amount, but this will take care of this year's need. We have some fire department, police department funds that came in to reimburse them for certain events, for some overtime and things like that. The next large item is for streets and engineering. They got approval to do some street resurfacing and some street improvements, primarily Commonwealth Avenue, Good Street, Oakview Avenue, Sycamore Street. We initially had those in next year's budget. They received approval, and they're going to get VDOT reimbursed in hopefully this year. The funds may come in next year, but we'll, in any event, get reimbursed for those. Those total about $1.2 million. So I think those will be some improvements that the citizen will be happy to see. We did receive a grant for economic development for technology of $3,500. That's a small amount, but we have to appropriate those funds. And then you may recall that in the budget that we were able to decrease the transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund by using the real estate tax increase from the June due date. So we're going to transfer those monies, it's $292,000, over to the capital projects fund so that we can help take care of those police cars that we're going to buy out of the next year's budget. And you'll see those appropriated in the capital projects fund as well. In last year's audit, I know you may have a question about this flexible spending fund. It's $36,000. In last year's audit, our auditors actually folded that into the budget in a way that it made it necessary to appropriate those funds. Those funds come 100% from employees, their flexible spending contributions, and then there are expenditures for claims out of that fund. So this is just a procedural thing that will make us compliant in our audit. The school operating fund, as I mentioned, we have school construction assistant grant funding that was received by the school system. In this current year, they're going to need to expend about $2.8 million, $415,000 of that for purchase services, and then $2.4 million to reimburse some ESSER funds that they had initially used. I'll be happy to address any questions you may have, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Do we want to do questions now, or do we want to get into discussion? Let me go ahead and do the motion, and we'll get to discussion. So looking for a motion and a second for the supplemental budget appropriation.
I move to approve the supplemental budget appropriation as presented.
Second.
All right, motion by the Vice Mayor, second by Mr. Holmes. Council discussion.
Is the transfer of the real estate tax based on the due date, is that something that we've been doing in the past, or is that something that's a new audit finding?
When you passed the real estate tax rate increase, management had a discussion. It was realized that we would actually gain we would gain additional revenues in the current year from that June 5th billing. We had not counted on that when the budget was put together for this year. So that was revenues that were not anticipated. So the decision was made, and during the budget process, you actually voted to transfer those funds over and use those for capital. Since we didn't expect those revenues anyway, we could use those toward those police cars next year.
Okay. I guess I figured that would be revenues received in the current year, but towards the 2023-24 budget. But I suppose comes out the same either way.
Yes, it did allow us to provide the funding we needed to provide in next year's budget, since we had all of the solid waste and the other areas that needed funding next year, with it being such a challenging budget.
So I guess at such point as we eventually reduce the rate, we'll need to account for losing 20-something days of revenue in the then current year. Because it would be the same on the other end, correct? Because the rate the funds are received in June, even though the fiscal year is July 1.
The due date for this current billing was June 5th, so she's already collected the
Right.
majority of that.
And that would be the same situation, the two would be your winter collection, and then your June 5th would, be for the.
Anytime the rate changes, the collection date is a little bit before the fiscal year, so we have to account for a couple of weeks of extra funding.
In this case, yes.
And I was just basically asking clarification or restating what I hadn't thought of before, that if we reduce the rate, we'll need to similarly account for the couple of weeks of reduced funding, if you understand what I mean.
This is recurring funding, so if you, at some point, reduce the rate, you will have to reduce expenditures unless you have replacing revenues, unless you come up with another revenue stream to replace it, or growth.
So on the VDOT reimbursement,
Yes.
and this could be a question to you or the city manager, either one. Do we have any other VDOT reimbursement projects on the horizon that are coming up?
We're doing VDOT reimbursement projects basically throughout the year, so just timing is an issue with this project.
So it's just the timing in this situation, okay. Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, ordinance 23-11, first reading. An ordinance to amend City Code Appendix to Chapter 70, Paragraph 1A pertaining to solid waste fees. No one has signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, as you all are well aware, the Solid Waste Disposal Fund has significant financial issues, and as we went through the budget season this year, worst case scenario that I presented back in January was that the collection rate would be $72 a month. As we continued to go through the budget, we were able to get those down to $60 a month. Since that time, we were lucky enough to receive a grant from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice to allow us to purchase some police cars, and if it was not for that grant, we would be unable to do that. So Ms. Bradley and I have been working with other city staff for an extended period of time, at least a couple of 3 weeks, to come up with a solution for citizens so that they would not be paying $60 a month for the trash rate. Now, in order to get us to this point, there are several things that we have to do in order to come up with additional revenue to cover these expenses. And we do have a chart that shows where these funds are coming from. No pressure, G. Here we go. If you can go ahead and advance it. So as I mentioned just a few moments ago, we did receive a $477,000 grant from DCJS ARPA funds that will allow us to purchase police cars. So we were able to shift some money around in order to help reduce the cost from $60 down to $48. And if it was not for that grant, we probably would not be having this discussion tonight. So, I want to say thank you to Chief John Austin and his staff for going out and finding the grant and to be able to help with a part of this. Next, we will increase cigarette and admissions tax. You will have a public hearing and a first reading of that ordinance on June the 20th at 6 p.m. We are estimating with an increase in the cigarette and admissions tax, that would be an additional $170,000 in revenue to help cover some of the expenses associated with the solid waste disposal fund. The next two items, the interest earnings on the emergency reserve. We do have an emergency reserve account that earns interest. And right now, there's approximately $105,000 in that account, or $105,000 worth of interest, I should say, in that account. We would pull $100,000 if necessary at some point later in the year if we needed to. We'll just have to wait and see how things go throughout the year as far as collection rates and other expenses associated as to if we would need to pull that. But that would be something we would do as a last resort. Also, the general fund beginning balance, we would pull $82,000 from. But we would do that, once again, as a last resort after we kind of go through the year to see where our expenses are, how they are going. And then what we will do, we will pull $100,000 from the general fund city attorney professional services line. So that would be reduced from a $1.5 million line item in our budget to $1.4 million. And then we would also reduce the contingency fund that currently has $250,000 in it. We would reduce that by $100,000. For a total of $1,029,000, and that's the revenue that we think that we would need to make up to cover the expenses associated with reducing that trash rate.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we are looking for a motion and a second for the first reading of the ordinance, and this motion can be in full or by caption only.
Move to approve by caption only.
Second.
All right, motion for first reading by caption only by Mr. Pollard, second by Mr. Holmes. Council discussion.
Just wanted to jump in and say I appreciate city staff. You all are working here every day trying to figure it out. And this is about trying to help our citizens, give them some relief by getting creative. So everyone here, including Chief Austin with the grant. So it's again part of the process to try to pay the bills for everything that needs to be done. So I appreciate you all. And I think I mentioned earlier, I hope 48 is, maybe not permanent. I hope one day some of these expenses that we're incurring now at the landfill will go away, go down at least, and we'll be able to move past it.
I want to say thank you to city staff, to Chief Austin for figuring this out. As I've said before, I didn't want the 60 before to be the end point. I wanted us to keep working. Hopefully, as Councilman Farnham said, this is another point on that path. But that $500,000 grant that Chief Austin snagged, that's significant. If you see him on the street, see one of his officers, thank him, thank them. This is big. This is helping us get to the next step. I fully intend to support this, intend to support it on the next reading. Let's get this going. This is good.
Yeah, so I'll just have to add to your comments. $48, it still is high, and it's not where we want to be, but it's a huge difference in where it was, several months ago. And I'll have to thank our city manager, our assistant city manager, our CFO, because I know you all have crunched the numbers, got together and worked on it, and then truly for Chief Austin for getting that grant. That has been key, and as you can tell in the numbers, the $477,000 has been key in helping us to get this cost down. So we are so thankful for that. Let's see, I think that was all I was going to say. There's also, I did have one question, I'm sorry. On the interest earnings on the emergency reserve, I just wanted to make sure that we're clear on that because that's not affecting our reserve at all. This is the interest earnings on it. So bottom line, we still have the money in our reserve that we need to keep there, which is also very important for our city to move forward.
And just to throw out there, I know we have to vote twice, today and next week. So I know we have to let BVU know pretty quickly when it comes to the billing about what the bills will be for people in July and August. So I look forward to voting on this now and then also voting on it next week as well.
Yeah, I'll agree to that. I have every intent to pass this on the second reading.
I think I may have indicated a little bit of that with my enthusiasm for my emotion. I am very glad to see this happen. I need to give a clarification based on some things that I may have put out there and told people in the past. I may have made some recommendations that help towards this, but this is a group effort. There's a lot, including the largest share of this is that grant for the police cars that's made this possible. I am very glad to see this so that it will reduce the impact. It won't eliminate the impact, but it'll reduce the impact on our residents with their trash rate. This will help a lot of our people significantly over what it would have been before. I do not want to even imagine how people would have been hurt if we had to keep the original $72 trash rate. I am so glad that our city staff have been able to work down to this new $48 rate.
I'll just say, great job, folks. And same goes for Chief Austin, who's not here, but, great job to him for landing that big grant that allowed this conversation to kind of begin. I know 48 is not ideal. Everybody has been paying 33, but 48 is a whole lot better than 60, and 48 is a whole lot better than 72. the difference between $48 and $60 a month, may not sound like a lot to the average person, but that's a prescription, for a senior citizen, that's a prescription. So it can be a lot. So I appreciate what you all have done to find this money and to find a way forward to have us at 48. Obviously, I fully intend to pass this on the second reading as well as tonight. And I think that this will be very good, very good for us to be able to move forward with this. And I look forward to trying to find ways in the next fiscal year to hopefully, maybe not increase it from 48, maybe even find a little bit of a decrease from 48. So let me go ahead and call the roll for.
Real quick, I just want to clarify, it sounds like it's a pretty unanimous discussion amongst all you all that you intend on voting yes on this at the second reading on June the 20th. Do I have your all's permission to reach out to BVU tomorrow and advise them that council's intent is to have a $48 rate go into effect on July 20th?
Yeah.
Yep.
And-
Yes.
As soon as the new ordinance goes into effect, please.
And then, Mr. Farnham, I know you're our BVU board representative, so if you could reach out to Mr. Bowman as well and talk to him about the billing to make sure that we can get this on one bill. I believe it's my understanding he suggested that if the rate was below $50, that this could go on one bill.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so by all means, after we do this, go ahead and reach out to BVU, or someone reach out to BVU. Go ahead and call the roll.
Farnham.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. Reading of the ordinance by caption only.
An ordinance to amend City Code Appendix to Chapter 70, Paragraph 1A pertaining to solid waste fees. The chapter amended Appendix to Chapter 70.
All right, thank you. On to the consent agenda. What is the pleasure of council?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by the vice mayor, second by Mr. Holmes. Please call the roll.
Farnham.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. There being no further business, we stand adjourned.